This podcast is made possible with collaboration and input from the LinkedIn Digital Transformation Group with reference to Google News and Wikipedia.
DevOps, 5 Habits of Successful Leaders. Building and improving a DevOps culture requires a special kind of leader. The most successful DevOps leaders model habits including consensus building and continuous learning. A strong DevOps culture usually spreads widely and organically. It also requires strong leaders who manage their teams in ways that are generative to that culture, and possess many of the same attributes that they're hoping to cultivate. DevOps ultimately requires a high level of collaboration to be successful, so it's critical that team members have the communication and interpersonal skills to work well with others, says Gu Rao, CTO at Portworx. DevOps leadership needs to set the tone. Setting the tone with action is often more effective than by mandate. While leadership can still require some top-down prescription, a healthy culture is better served by building habits conducive to DevOps success. 5 Habits of High-Performing DevOps Leaders. Let's dig into 5 characteristic habits of strong DevOps leaders. 1. They hone negotiation and consensus building skills. The ability to bridge gaps among individuals and teams could benefit most executives and managers, but it's absolutely essential for DevOps leaders. Negotiation and consensus building skills, as well as a knack for balancing those with prescription when necessary, are key. Leaders in DevOps organizations need these more than traditional technology leaders, says Ravi Lackman, evangelist at Harness. A good DevOps culture is all about collaboration and breaking down silos. These skills are particularly important to DevOps leaders because they are usually more concerned with the impacts of their processes and tools on internal customers or partners, and therefore are as much interested in how things get done as they are in what gets done. Engineering efficiency changes can have an immediate impact across the organization, so the internal customers of DevOps teams can be wary and potentially pessimistic about changes they implement, Lackman says. The adage "your customers don't care how you achieve something" is not true for DevOps leaders because DevOps teams are in the business of defining how you achieve something. Indeed, the how and why are crucial. That means broadening your focus to include not only outcomes but how those outcomes are produced. Good leaders invite everyone in the organization to the table, says Derek Weeks, VP at Sonatype. They understand everyone needs to buy into building a DevOps practice and agree on the desired outcomes. Managers and leaders that implement these strategies create healthier change, happier people, and better outcomes. And remember, healthy and happy teams outperform talented ones. 2. They promote continuous learning and growth. Inflexible silos allow people to stay static in their specific roles. They don't need to care about how someone in a different role does their job. As in number 1 above, they don't need to care about how things get done, just that their singular part of a larger process or pipeline gets done. That's antithetical to DevOps. In many organizations, the members of a value chain, who deliver faster, better, and more secure apps and services are too focused on their own piece, and the engineers and individuals working on their piece of the value stream don't have the time or ability to look upstream, from testing into the design work, for example, or downstream, from development to operations, says Evelyn Ehrlich, Chief Research Officer at DevOps Institute. This causes a narrow view and does not allow for improvement and understanding of the bigger picture. It's not necessarily the individual's fault, however. There may be little incentive for learning and development, there might even be a downside for doing so. The pressure to deliver in many cases does not allow for room to learn and understand other key areas within the value chain which can be improved when working together, Ehrlich says. DevOps leaders regularly give their teams the time and space to learn and grow, from each other, from experimentation, from training or professional development, and so on. Building a team that supports each other and has a wide set of skills is crucial, Lackman says. As a leader, you need to encourage an environment where learning and development will thrive. Someone on the team might have infrastructure as code skills, while another has more familiarity with building out a C/CD pipeline. Cross-training and shadowing would help both team members learn. Ehrlich similarly points to shadowing other roles as a good means of encouraging learning, alongside other means such as professional training and creating a sense of safety for experimentation and failure. That particular tactic is one way in which strong leaders foster more collaborative cultures. 2. By walking a mile in a colleague's shoes, you understand and empathize with them more. This can also undo bad habits, especially if you're pivoting from a more siloed organizational setup. Continuous learning will improve habits and sharpen skills, Ehrlich says. Weeks from Sonotype also points to continuous learning as a mainstay of strong DevOps leaders. And it applies to you, too, not just encouraging your team. Strong leaders aren't just reading the tech blogs or watching the conference videos, though they do that as well. They're reaching out to people and asking them for 30 minutes to chat and share experiences. Weeks says, the best of those conversations are more dialogue than discourse. 3. They lead with empathy and patience. Leadership often means making tough decisions, including of the variety that won't make everyone happy. And the pace of many modern IT organizations means a completely hands-off management approach might miss the mark. That doesn't mean micromanagement or command and control styles should come into vogue. When building platforms to support both continuous delivery and uptime, DevOps leaders need the patience to understand organizational change won't happen right away, Lackman says. They also need empathy for sprint-based development teams, which might sidestep prescribed best practices during their intense responsibilities 2 or 3 weeks at a time. 4. They listen continually and don't blame. Empathy and understanding require listening. DevOps leaders listen to their teams habitually. Listen to your team and your team will listen to you, Rao from Portworx says. Good leaders can give and receive feedback while building a DevOps culture from the ground up. The notion of fail fast and learn fast can only evolve if feedback is received regularly and activated often. This also sets the standard for what is expected of your team when things get challenging. We should also note that cultures of blame or fear don't engender productive feedback and collaboration. Strong DevOps leaders consistently look for ways to grow a blameless culture where people aren't worried about the negative consequences of trying new things or sharing new ideas. You can't expect a DevOps team to collaborate if they don't feel comfortable sharing their opinions and ideas, Rao says. 5. They empower people to change. Change is hard, especially in companies that have moved toward DevOps from a legacy model. But it's even harder when leadership simply demands change instead of empowering people to make changes themselves, whether to culture, processes, or technologies. Once goals are set for improvements, leaders must empower the individuals who are part of the journey to change bad habits into good habits to achieve the goals, Ehrlich says. For example, if communication and collaboration across functions needs improvement, the teams involved shouldn't need to ask for approval to try new practices such as regular stand-ups or coffee chats. This also feeds back into number 2 in creating real space for learning, especially from other members of the existing team. Leaders must work to make change feel less painful. Great DevOps leaders focus on making change easier for people, Weeks says. Creating and evolving DevOps practices within large enterprises requires a lot of change, so those leading the charge really need to keep everyone in the loop by communicating as transparently as possible. DevOps leaders regularly work to help individuals strike a realistic balance between what needs to get done today, or this week, or this month, and the long-term goals. Ehrlich likes the outside-in approach, meaning you take a customer-centric focus that pursues continuous improvements to customer, or user, or patient, etc., experience over time while recognizing budget realities and other constraints. Rao offers a similar but separate approach: make clear the relationship between changes, or goals, and business, or customer, outcomes. Autonomy with accountability means engineers need to be trusted to make decisions quickly but understand the impact of their actions, Rao says. Team members should have a clear understanding of the business outcomes they are trying to achieve and be able to adapt and improve processes to meet those outcomes. For example, do you want your DevOps engineers to be in the business of building tools, or building innovation that your customers can experience? Another way to think of this habit, DevOps leaders continuously shift away from a mindset of change as mandate, or change as something that must occur for the sake of it. Instead, they turn change into something valuable, for individuals, teams, and customers, and enable others to do the same. They shine a bright light on the big picture instead of cutting people out of the loop. Good leaders are developing a roadmap for their teams to follow and easily understand where they are heading in both the short and long term, Weeks says. This enables their teams to better understand why it's worth it to wade through some of the more challenging changes each day.
A message from our sponsor, Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you here how it works. It's free. You can register free online. Just go to Anchor.fm and register. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or desktop computer. That's how easy it is. Anchor will also help to distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and many more other platforms. You can also generate income from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place. Now, you can download the Anchor apps from the Apple Store or Google Play Store. Enjoy the podcast. Thanks again.
Remote work, 3 ways to improve company culture. As organizations start to look toward a return to the workplace, consider rejuvenating your company culture with these tips. Working remotely comes with benefits: no commute, more flexible schedules, and lower overheads, to name just a few. But as many companies have discovered, remote work can threaten even the strongest corporate culture. No matter how great your company culture was before the pandemic, it's time to take a look at how it's holding together, and what you might do to nurture it back to health. Here are 3 ways employers can encourage a healthy company culture while also sticking to guidelines that keep employees safe when offices reopen. Adapt culture to the new norm. The best way to reinforce culture starts with asking employees for feedback. Find out how they think your culture has changed during the pandemic and what improvements they recommend. You'll likely spot common themes across employee feedback that will show your management team the most obvious ways culture has diminished and reveal steps to fix it. Organizations that quickly adapt and present new cultural initiatives will demonstrate to employees that they're making an effort. While many organizations will try to resurrect the old ways, it's naive to think employees want the same work environment they had last year. The pandemic has reprogrammed employees' working environment preferences and also demands that they change for the health of the company, literally. A culture redesign is, therefore, necessary no matter how strong it was before COVID-19. At my own company, I recognized that employee satisfaction was a mixed bag during the mandatory stretch of work from home. When it was safe to return to the office, I charged HR with creating flexible capsules that would allow individual employees to choose how they split their time between the office and home each week. Encourage two-way communication. Communication is more important than ever. Employees will look to their managers to address their concerns and offer guidance on how to navigate the post-pandemic workplace. Be transparent with employees and work one-on-one to ensure that your team members are satisfied and efficient in the new environment. Many employees will be worried about the risk of returning to the office, and employers should provide them with as much information as possible. This is key to increasing employees' confidence and comfort and nurturing a culture of empathy. HR can help bridge the gap between executives, who ultimately make cultural decisions, and employees. One step I've found to be effective is setting up several small roundtable meetings, sans top brass. The only subject on the table is how to improve the average workday as the pandemic winds down. Without executives present, employees are more comfortable letting their guard down and will likely offer great suggestions you can turn into initiatives. Celebrate and empower standout managers. The pandemic has revealed the profound power of true leaders to make changes in the face of conflict. Smart and flexible leaders have met the challenge with practical solutions and enabled a smooth transition to remote work. Strong managers know that working alongside their people is essential and cannot be replaced with a capsule schedule or even the most sophisticated communications platforms. As a leader, encourage your employees to follow your cues on ethics, culture, and day-to-day routines. To help our managers gain this perspective and learn to work with it, we've recently instituted a series of management training events and activities. Organizations should celebrate and empower standout managers who bring employees together and suggest changes that suit a new hybrid work environment. Make them culture influencers by allowing them to suggest tools, activities, or meetings that promote flexibility and satisfaction, and give them a budget to accomplish these goals. Reshaping your company culture post-pandemic allows leaders and managers to better connect with their teams. While designing a company culture is challenging, the right leaders and mindset will help enable a smooth transition back to the office.
Your secret weapon for successful digital transformation? Get employees on board. For nearly a decade, companies have been discussing their digital transformation. And in the past year, the pandemic and the rapid shift to remote work dramatically accelerated many companies' digital transformations. In fact, McKinsey notes that years of digital transformation were consolidated into just a few months. Now, as companies consider the best way forward into the next few years, digital transformation is in the spotlight. One of the most important aspects that make digital transformation successful in employee adoption. Here are some ways to get employees on board and ready for your plans. Share the larger context of your vision. Employees are much more likely to become excited and work with you on digital transformation initiatives if they understand what you are trying to accomplish. In the words of Simon Sinek, it's critical to know your why. This goes for the executive team signing off on a digital transformation, the IT team that's implementing it, and the employees you're asking to adjust their processes. Help employees understand what you're trying to accomplish with your digital transformation by answering concerns like how it will improve the customer experience, how it will make employees' jobs easier, what the overall benefit is to the company, grow, achieve, or become more profitable, how the changes will improve the company's impact. As Deloitte notes, business and technology strategy has become inextricably combined. The choices companies make for technology growth can create opportunities or constrain a growth period. By highlighting how your technology choices make it easier to implement your company's strategy, you can foster greater employee buy-in. Give stakeholders a voice in the transformation. Transformations that are dictated from the top down can be the hardest to get buy-in for. It's easier to get employees engaged when you give them a voice in how a digital transformation is designed or how it will unfold. Consider asking employees to weigh in on the pain points they're dealing with. What technologies, processes, or organizational demands do they struggle with? Are there processes that could benefit from being digitized or streamlined? For example, when a retail company recently asked employees for feedback, the biggest pain point they cited was needing real-time information to answer customers' questions. Asking a customer to follow them back to a terminal and then wait while they searched for inventory information wasn't efficient. Instead, employees wanted to be armed with tablets that had real-time availability data. Because their input was critical to this investment, associates were eager to implement the new system and the transformation was a significant success. By showcasing where employee feedback has been used to select specific tools, prioritize investment, or even just test and support the rollout for new technologies, there's a greater sense of buy-in and engagement that can help drive your digital transformation success. Invest in training. One of the greatest barriers to adopting new technology is a lack of knowledge. Employees may be concerned that they don't understand how to use the new system or device. Others may be concerned that new technologies will create unnecessary work or can slow down the well-honed processes that they've developed after months or years on the job. Overcome these objections with targeted training designed to help your employees confidently make the most of new systems. Common mistake companies often make is providing a demo of how software or technology works and then deeming that to be sufficient training. Demos do play an important role in helping familiarize your team with new technologies. But it's important to significantly invest in training so employees understand what resources are at their disposal, how best to use them, and what steps they should take to make the most of them. When considering training, here are some best practices to remember. Address a variety of needs. Different types of users, and people who use the system with different frequencies, may require slightly different perspectives. Tap into a variety of opportunities to help users learn. Some may benefit from real-time or in-person instruction, while others may prefer self-paced video, audio, or written references. Have office hours or a support person available to answer questions, revisit key parts of the training, and ease the transition during the first few weeks of using a system. Dedicating a resource to answering questions as they pop up can help eliminate frustration and smooth out the transition to a new system. Have a rollout plan. Design a rollout and deployment plan that allows for support and transition time while your team adapts to new technologies. Not all technologies have a hands-on component, but this is especially critical for those that do, or those that have behind-the-scenes solutions that might directly impact mission-critical processes. In addition to training, your rollout plan should also incorporate hands-on guidance and feedback sessions throughout the first few days or weeks of using the new solution. A few options to consider include: stay connected throughout the deployment. 10-minute stand-ups or quick email check-ins can help you keep a pulse on how things are going, head off problems before they become larger issues, and identify individuals or teams that might need additional support or training. Reward success stories. If an employee has a big win or the technology has enabled a success story, share it. Capture the lessons learned that other employees might be able to benefit from. The more you can showcase technology tools transforming your workplace, employee experience, and customer offerings for the better, the more successful you'll be. Conduct more formal assessments such as surveys, interviews, focus groups, or town hall discussions to understand how your digital transformation is affecting employees. Often, a digital transformation is a work in progress, and ongoing feedback gives you a chance to refine what you're doing. Demonstrate strong leadership. While digital transformation from the top down is often not well received, executives and leaders set the tone for how it's embraced. Think about the way your attitudes, language, and adoption of new technologies set the standard in your business, and look for options to model the kind of response you want. Consider the following ideas. Be optimistic about the value of new technology and digital transformation. Find positive ways to frame investments, from improving the employee experience to offering something new. Don't underestimate the power of being present. Attend training, personally introduce speakers who will be discussing the changes, and provide the signals that this process matters. Reach out to your direct reports and underscore the importance of taking part in these events. Be knowledgeable about digital transformation. Depending on your role and organization, this might mean participating in training or simply doing the research and being able to speak to the strategic importance of key aspects of digital transformation. Planning your digital transformation requires more than investing in hardware or choosing new software products or devices. It's important to remember that employee engagement and adoption is the X factor in any new technology initiative. Improve your team's success and drive a high-impact digital transformation initiative by focusing on employee engagement. Communicating your mission, giving teams a voice in the workplace transformation, and having a well-developed training and rollout plan can all increase employees' willingness to help make your digital transformation successful.
Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share it with your friends and colleagues. Please also support us by clicking the support button at our page anchor.fm/Maifors, MAIFORS. That's all for today. Hope you enjoy the podcast. We will see you again in the next episode. Have a great day, take care and stay safe. You know, man.